Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use.
All right, gang. So we gonna get into it because it's go time. All right. Can I help y'all with something? Hold on 1 second, y'all. Let's jump into this first clip. This is gonna be a fun day. Where should we start? Kamala no black. Yeah, Kamala no black. But this has become such a bigger conversation, man. Let's jump in real quick and let's remind people of where we at, and then let's go somewhere deeper.
Love of good idli in her. Listen.
I stand before you as the first candidate for Vice President of the United States of South Asian descent. When my mother, Kamala, stepped off
in America in a recent to be nominated as a vice presidential candidate in America. In a recent event, the Democratic vice presidential nominee took a trip down memory lane, recalling her mother's journey from India to America. Now, her mother, Shyamala Gopalan, was born in Chennai and immigrated to America to study at UC Berkeley. The Indian origin senator also talked about her trips to India and her mother's attempts to instill a love of good idli in her. Listen.
Good idli. See you later, big boy. Love you.
I stand before you as the first candidate for Vice President of the United States of South Asian descent. When my mother...
Let me let y'all hear that a third time, because I don't think you heard her.
I stand before you as the first candidate for Vice President of the United States of South Asian descent. Before you as the first candidate for Vice President of the United States of South Asian descent. I stand before you as the first candidate for Vice President of the United States of South Asian descent.
South Asian descent. Gang, what are we doing here? Why we let ourselves get so worked up over nonsense, family? Nonsense, family.
I stand before you as the first candidate for Vice President of the United States of South Asian descent. When my mother, Kamala, stepped off the plane in California at 19.
Shout to Kamala! Shabba! This is a mess.
18 years old, she didn't have much in the way of belongings.
Now, I will say one thing. Salute to her mother for being a genius, because it seems like she did some work at a Jewish hospital in Canada that was groundbreaking in breast cancer research and allowed a lot of progress to come in that field, you know, which helps women today. So salute to Kamala Harris for being an amazing scientist. Salute for her amazing at raising daughters that are also very intellectual. I mean, this woman's a lawyer and an attorney general, formerly at the end of the day, junior senator at the end of the day. So we're not going to play like the woman's unintelligent. But Shyamala no black, and here's her daughter Kamala. Let's go.
But she carried with her lessons from back. I stand before you as the first candidate for Vice President of the United States of South Asian descent. When my mother, Kamala, stepped off the plane in California at 19 years old, she didn't have much in the way of belongings. But she carried with her lessons from back home. Growing up, my mother would take my sister, Maya, and me back to what was then called Madras, because she wanted us to understand where she had come from and where we had ancestry.
Where they had their ancestry. That's right, because, you know, she's a South Asian descent.
Maya and me, but she of the United States of South Asian descent. President of the United States of South Asian descent. When my mother, Kamala, stepped off the plane in California at 19 years old, she didn't have much in the way of belongings. but she carried with her lessons from back home. Growing up, my mother would take my sister, Maya, and me back to what was then called Madras, because she wanted us to understand where she had come
Free
from
throws.
and where we had
Need those.
ancestry. And of course, she always wanted to instill in us, because she wanted us to understand where she had come from and where we had ancestry. And of course, she always wanted to instill in us. I stand before you as the first candidate for Vice President of the United States of South Asian descent.
No.
When my
No, this is a lie. Ghetto, you're lying. You're lying, Ghetto. You obviously AI'd the video. Ghetto, why would you AI this woman saying some stuff like this? Listen, you got me. You got me red-handed. I AI'd the video. I AI'd the video. I obviously AI'd the video. She never said this. Fair use, yeah. Let's go.
Hi! I love that you're coming to the kitchen already. Sourdough crepe. And then Kamala Harris.
Hi, guys.
Wait, so here's what I want to know.
Okay.
Is it respectful to call, like, I should be calling you Senator Harris, right?
No, you should not. That's not on my birth certificate.
Okay.
Call
Kamala?
me, yes, please.
Okay, because the Indian in me, I feel like my parents,
Just
my
don't
dad
call
will
me-
watch this.
Just don't call me auntie.
Okay, I won't call you auntie. They'll be like, how could you call her by her first name? She's worked so hard. Okay, so what we're gonna cook today is an Indian recipe.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
you are Indian.
Yes.
Okay, and I don't know that everybody knows that.
You are Indian. Yes. And I don't know everybody knows that.
But I find that wherever I go and I see Indian people at the supermarket, on the street, everyone's like, you know, Kamala Harris is Indian, right? It's like the thing we're so excited about to have you running for president.
All right, that's enough of that. Listen, but the deeper conversation that needs to be had here is, Ghetto, are you saying that there were dark-skinned Irish people? That's not possible, Ghetto. Okay. So then not only were there dark-skinned Irish people, but as the book Place of the Welsh states, there were dark-skinned Welsh, Derbyshire, Highlanders, Scot, British, all dark-skinned, wavy-haired people. You know what I mean? So we're not gonna play this game. According to the BBC.com, Britain's dark-skinned, blue-eyed ancestor explained. Fair use. Cutting-edge scientific analysis shows that a Briton from 10,000 years ago had dark brown skin and blue eyes. This is Cheddar Man, guys, as they're calling him. They're saying this is the DNA. This is what the first British person would have looked like over 10,000 years ago. Dark skinned with blue eyes, some with blonde hair, some with black hair, some with brown hair, etc. Not, as the natives may say, pale faced. Not pale faced. They'd have a little complexion. All right, so we in it. Researchers from London's Natural Museum extracted DNA from Cheddar Man, Britain's oldest complete skeleton, which was discovered in 1903. They discovered it in 1903 and waited all these years to finally tell you. Look at that, over 100 years. Anyway, a University College London team analyzed the genome, and the results were used for a facial reconstruction. It underlines the fact that the lighter skin characteristics of modern European is a relatively recent phenomenon. It underlines the fact. Do I need to pull up a dictionary so we can understand what the word fact means? It underlines the fact that the lighter skin characteristic of modern Europeans is a relatively recent phenomenon. Do you understand what that means? This right here is recent. Original Britons all right. Was that descriptive enough? Was that a clear message? Original Britons, recent phenomena, right? Recent phenomenon. Shout out to the Smashing Pumpkins, by the way. But this is this skin color here. This is a recent phenomenon. Something like a phenomenon. Woo! They not going. All right, I'm done. It underlines the fact that the lighter skin characteristic of modern Europeans is a relatively recent phenomenon, meaning that is a recent thing that started happening to the people of modern Europe, having lighter skin. Oh, BBC is obviously playing woke politics, and this is not true. I understand. So if you don't respect the BBC, I mean, you know, get back to the book, The Place of the Welsh in the History of Britain. You're going to have to do something with this book. You're going to have to do something with this book. The small dark Irish of the southwest of Ireland and the small dark Highlander of Scotland and the dark inhabitants of Devon and Cornwall are physically of the same race. The recent researches of Beddoe prove also that the small dark Yorkshire man and Derbyshire man are of the same small dark stock. On the continent, we found the same race still in Brittany and in various districts in the Valley of Loire, as is clearly proved by Dr. Braca's maps, until at least we come to the Basque of the Pyrenees and all this, in the small dark population of Spain. Talk to me nice. Talk to me nice. Stop playing. There is no longer any room for doubt that the small dark Welshman is a fragment of people formerly widely extended over Europe. They lived all over Europe, but now broken up into ethnological islands by subsequent invasions. They used to live all over, but the different invaders then broke up the groups, made them smaller. And further, the fact must be accepted that the language which they spoke is now represented by the Basque tongue, which has so long baffled the philologers and which is not only non-Aryan, but predates Aryan. It's pre-Aryan. Fair use.
Mother, Shamala stepped off.
Indian origin senator also talked about her trips to India and her mother's attempts to instill a love of good idli in her. Listen.
Good idli. You gotta
I
love
stand
good
before
idli.
you as the first candidate for Vice President of the United States of South Asian descent. When my mother, Shamala, stepped off the plane in California at 19 years old, she didn't have much in the way of belongings, but she carried with her.
All right, cool. So check this out. Just imported from Ireland. A presentation by Bernadette M. Rogoff, Director of Collections. Just imported from Ireland. Irish indentured servitude in New Jersey. This was the Monmouth County Historical Society. If you have a problem with the evidence, refute it, nigga. Huh? Right? Refute the evidence. I'm not even going to hurt you that much. I'm just going to go to the end of it where I want to go. Typical indentured servants in Monmouth County, not slaves. Indentured servants in Monmouth County, males 18 to 25, typically immigrated from Ireland, England, and Holland/Germany, quote unquote, the Dutch, and Scotland, Scottish, often already skilled at a trade, coopers, smiths, tailors, bricklayers/masons, weavers, carpenters, locksmiths, gunsmiths, gardeners, bakers, shoemakers. Indenture, usually between 3 to 5 years, the ones that got to get out. There's tons of people that didn't get out their indentures. And then those indentures turned into chattels. But nobody wants to talk about that. We could look at the freedom suits. How many people had to actually sue for their freedom because they indenture kept getting flipped over. They planners wasn't good, and the planners shared their reflection. Female indentured servants often not noted by age and sale advertisements because they were so young. Some of these girls they were selling. Skills mentioned including a very good cook, fit for all sorts of household work, works well with her needle, a good spinner, fit for town and or country business.
Scotland.
So anyway,
our countenance with a large.
I just want to show y'all some of these runaway.
And I mentioned in the
notices.
Beginning that tavern on the left.
I want to show y'all some of these runaway notices.
Story.
And we gonna play games
and first
and act
in
like we don't know what things mean,
1756.
right? I understand y'all have to do that. I get it. Like we gonna play games. I get it. But it gets a little annoying sometimes because I pull up so much good freaking information and y'all be capping on here.
If they escaped,
y'all be capping. Y'all really be capping.
The tavern at the Allen House from 1754 to about 1770.
It did. She's going in on the information. Salute.
Maybe area where she.
Salute to her. I'm gonna just go real. I'm gonna do one. I could bombard you with mad of these runaway advertisements, but I'm gonna do one, and we gonna pretend like it don't say what it say, right? Advertisement, runaway again. Where we at the 3511 mark? Again, this is again just imported from Ireland. Irish indentured servitude in New Jersey. All right. Bernadette M. Rogoff, Director of Collections, Monmouth County Historical Association. Talk to me with some sense in your brain.
A
advertisement. Runaway, the 30th of June, passed from David Heldreth of Middletown in Monmouth County, East New Jersey, a servant woman named Martha Barnes, about 36 years of age, lusty and well set, long, thin visages, tawny complexion. Oh, ghetto, what's tawny mean? Tawny means she had brown skin. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. Y'all get on my nerves. Y'all know that? I just want to say that. I love y'all, man. Y'all be playing too many games. You want to see? Oh, yo, y'all play too many games. Y'all play too many games. Y'all play too many dang games. Okay. Tawny skin tone. Tawny complexion. Y'all play too many games. What's the definition of tawny? What's the definition of tawny? Y'all don't really want this. My computer's just moving a little slow. I apologize. Love y'all too, man. Let me see where we at with this. Yep. Oh, no. Where we at with this? Shit, screen. Forgive the delay, gang. I was just being a little too silly. All right, cool. So, tawny, color, Wikipedia. Means tan colored from Anglo-Norman tawny, associated with the brownish yellow tan colored Old French tanné to tan hides. Medieval Latin tanare from tannum, crushed oak bark. This is what tawny skin color looks like. This right here is tawny skin color, guys. Right here. We're gonna play games, right? Let me, because people act, oh boy, people play games around here. Tawny. Oh, tawny don't mean that. Tawny don't mean that. Tawny don't mean that. It's not tan. Nope. It's not full. It's not, nope. Burner. Synonyms. It's synonymous with light chocolate, caramel, light brown. These are the synonyms. Light brown. Tawny olive. Acracious. Bro, what are we talking about here, man? Y'all want to play this game? Okay. Y'all don't understand yet, huh? Y'all don't understand yet, huh? Y'all don't understand yet, huh? Tawny skin. Tawny skin. Tawny skin. Tawny skin. Gang, I want to play games. We can do this. We can do this. That's not what tawny skin means. Like, y'all know y'all want to play that game, but that's not what it means. I know y'all want to fit yourselves into it. This is tawny skin right here. This is tawny skin right here. Mary J. Blige, that is tawny skin. Tawny skin. Showed you what the synonyms was. What's the synonyms? Light brown, light chocolate, caramel. These are the synonyms. Which ones of these is light chocolate, light brown, and caramel? It's not these. It is not these. Why we even play it? Why would we even play it? It's definitely not these. This is not light brown. This is not light chocolate. This is not caramel. This is not light brown. This is not light chocolate. This is not caramel. We getting somewhere down here, family. We getting with light brown, light chocolate, tawny, like synonyms, light chocolate, caramel, light brown, camel, synonyms. What we talk. Britain's dark-skinned, blue-eyed ancestor explained. A recent facial reconstruction of a 10,000-year-old skeleton called the Cheddar Man has revealed a man with bright blue eyes, slightly curly hair, and dark skin. It might surprise the public, but not ancient DNA geneticists. Make sure y'all can see this. Says Mark Thomas, a scientist at the University of London. That's because a new analysis of the ancient man's DNA proves he's genetically similar to other dark-skinned individuals from the Mesolithic era found in Spain. The Iberians found in Spain. What? Who? Huh? Who? Huh? Hungary and Luxembourg, whose DNA has already been sequenced. So they already found dark-skinned people in Hungary and Luxembourg. The new revelation places Cheddar Man among a group of hunter-gatherers that are thought to have migrated to Europe at the end of the last ice age, some 11,000 years ago. The Cheddar Man earned his name not because of his fondness for cheese, which likely wasn't cultivated until around 3,000 years later, but because he was found in Cheddar Gorge in Somerset, England, which is incidentally where cheddar cheese originates. Go figure. Thomas is part of a large team that worked with London's Natural History Museum to reconstruct the Cheddar Man's face. They started the construction by taking measurements of the skull. They had a thick, heavy cranium and relatively light jaw, says Thomas. Researchers then sequenced Cheddar Man's entire genome. He's the oldest British individual whose genes scientists have mapped. He's the oldest British individual whose genes scientists have mapped. From the sequence, they learned skin color, eye, and hair type. The genes that determine skin color are mapped across various chromosomes, says Miguel Villar, the science manager for the National Geographic's Genome Project. Villar was not involved in reconstruction, but says scientists would have had to look at billions of data points, something we have previously been unable to do with ancient DNA. New DNA sequencing techniques make those scattered chromosomes easier to read. It's like taking an ancient book and looking at a whole chapter versus looking at a single word. Now we can read full paragraphs. Eye pigmentation is determined by a specific gene and a particular variant in the gene, says Thomas. For skin, there are a number of variants. How and when Britons developed lighter skin over time is unclear. Okay, what we talking about? What we talking about? What we talking about, man? Let's keep going. Let's keep going.
Was the first time you saw Kamala Harris in person the day that the verdict was issued?
She showed up at the two most pivotal times in this first trial, and me being convicted and me being sentenced. She wanted to be present for a celebration of a conviction.
That's what it felt like, a celebration?
A celebration, that's what it felt like. The reactions I get when I tell people my story is, they say it's the worst nightmare. You know, it's the closest thing to dying.
Jamal, I'm going to read you a quote real quick. The job of a progressive prosecutor is to look out for those overlooked, to speak up for those whose voices aren't being heard, to see and address the causes of crime, not just their consequences, and to shine a light on the inequality and unfairness that lead to injustice. It is to recognize that not everyone needs punishment, that what many need, quite obviously, is help. Kamala Harris wrote that in her book, The Truths We Hold. Does that sound consistent with the with the brand of justice that you saw administered by offices that she was running?
It definitely sounds like Kamala Harris right now as a senator. But at the time of her being the head district attorney of San Francisco, that is almost polar opposite of what I felt and what our community felt in San Francisco.
So Jamal, where are we?
Right now we are in Sunnydale Projects, where I was born and raised at. Now, this isn't a place that you'll want to bring outsiders into, and a place that they don't want to go. This ain't a place that feels comfortable. It feels like you might get robbed, you might get shot.
The police were keeping files on you and your brothers and other.
Look at this real quick. Tawny skin. Beautiful, 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 beautiful. My goodness. My goodness. Tawny skin. Synonyms: light brown, caramel, light chocolate. Synonyms: light brown, caramel, light chocolate. 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 Shout to Mark for this one. Light brown, caramel, light chocolate. Light brown, caramel, light chocolate. Light brown, caramel, listed cinnamons, light chocolate, caramel, light brown, caramel, light brown, caramel, light chocolate. Light brown, caramel, light chocolate. Come on, man. Look at light brown, caramel. This is Tawny. Light chocolate. Light brown, caramel, light chocolate. My Lord. Praise his name. Praise. Hey, whew. All praises. Listen. Light brown, caramel, light chocolate. 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 So we're gonna say this is not what Tawny's skin is? You're gonna say this is wrong, right? This is wrong. Oh, there's no Europeans that look like this. There's no European people. There's no Brits. There's no Derbyshires, no Highlanders, no Scots, no Stewarts, no Derbyshires that look like this. Okay, you're right. Sure you are. Good looks, Mark. Good looks, Mark. You jumping back in.
Living in Sunnydale from a very young age.
They already had me labeled because I'm in this community as a potential gang member, potential killer, potential drug dealer. You gotta wake up to the fact that, things are set up against us.
There is a conspiracy.
Yes.
It happened to you.
Exactly.
It's proven in court.
Absolutely. Places like this have been developed for predominantly African-American people to not be able to succeed beyond it.
Yeah. What did you know about Kamala Harris? What did you know about San Francisco having a black DA?
Nobody in the hood ever worried or
Kamala no
focused
black, Kamala no black.
But people did focus on it just a tad bit, that it was black, and feeling like, okay, this black lady in office, Kamala Harris, she's gonna understand where we come from, and have more of a sympathetic way of prosecuting people that come from our communities who have been plagued with no opportunities. This is Hunter's Point, where these different projects and communities used to really war with each other.
Jamal, in July 2007, what's going on in your life at that point?
I had recently just came off of I Love New York, and also that's when my friend Sel Kuka got killed.
More than a year goes by and no one's been arrested in the case. You hadn't even been questioned.
Haven't even been questioned, no. The police was still, trying to get a conviction by all means necessary. When I was arrested for it, the community knew I didn't do it. And it was here we go again. See, this is why we don't trust, law enforcement, because it gets to a point where somebody who didn't do something goes to jail for it. I don't have no history of crime. What's up, boy? I have a history of being around in the community, but that doesn't mean that I'm a suspect. I'm like, oh man, I'll be out within 72 hours. They're gonna figure this out. They're gonna clear this up.
And then when you found out what the evidence was that they supposedly had you on, there wasn't much there. Can you describe what it was?
They had a woman saying that she seen me kill Sel. The second witness that they had really wasn't a witness at all. she said anything that the police officers wanted her to say, and they said that her recollection of the events was extremely credible. So that's what ultimately got the arrest warrant.
The District Attorney of San Francisco, Kamala Harris, appeared in the courtroom during your trial twice.
Yeah, the 2 times that Kamala Harris showed up to my trial was when I got convicted, and also when they laid down the sentencing.
Lessons from back home. Growing up, I stand before you as the first candidate for Vice President of the United States of South Asian descent. When my
I love it. I really do. Okay. Cheddar Man, DNA shows early Britain had dark skin. BBC.com. Continuing on with the article, it underlines the fact that the lighter skin characteristic of modern Europeans is a relatively recent phenomenon. No prehistoric Briton of this age had previously had their genome analyzed. As such, the analysis provided valuable insights into the first people to resettle Britain after the last ice age. The first people to resettle Britain after the last ice age. Kamala no blood. Hey, Kamala no blood. Analysis of Cheddar Man's genome. The blueprint for a human. The blueprint for a human contained in the nuclei of our cells will be published in a journal and will also feature in the upcoming Channel 4 documentary, The First Brit. First Brit. Secrets of the 10,000-year-old man. Cheddar George tweet on early Britain. Oh, sorry, that's a hyperlink. Never mind. Cheddar Man's remains had been unearthed 115 years ago in Gow's Cave, located in Somerset's Cheddar Gorge. Subsequent examination has shown that the man was short by today's standards, about 5 feet 5 inches, like the short Welshman, the short Derbyshire man, the short Irishman, the short Highlander, the short Scotsman, the short Briton man, the short Brittany, the short people of lore. Wavy haired, dark skin, got you. And probably died about 5 foot 5 inches and probably died in his early 20s. Professor Chris Stanger, the museum's research leader in human origin, said, I've been studying the skeleton of Cheddar Man for about 40 years. So to come face to face with what this guy could have looked like, and that striking combination of the hair, the face, the eye color, and that dark skin, something a few years ago we couldn't have imagined. And yet that's what the scientific data shows. Fractures on the surface of the skull suggest that he may have even met his demise in a violent manner. It's not known how he came to lie in the cave, but it's possible he was placed there by others in his tribe. The Natural History Museum researchers extracted the DNA from part of the skull near the area known as Petrus, known as the Petrus. At first, the scientists, Professor Ian Barnes and Dr. Selena Brace, weren't sure if they'd get any DNA at all from the remains, but they were in luck. Not only was DNA preserved, but Cheddar Man has since yielded the highest coverage, a measure of the sequencing accuracy for a genome from this period of European history. So this is the most accurate genome from this coverage area of European history, of European quote-unquote prehistoric Europe, known as the Mesolithic or Middle Stone Age. They found the Stone Age Britain had dark hair, with a small probability that it was curlier than average, blue eyes, and skin that was probably dark brown or black in tone. This combination might appear striking to us today, but it was common appearance in Western Europe during this period. Blue eyes, dark skin, curly hair. Stephen Clark, director of the Channel 4 documentary, said, I think we all know we live in times where we are unusually preoccupied with skin pigmentation. Professor Mark Thomas, exactly. All this black and white stuff, and we need to be talking about nationality, genealogy, lineage. We need to be talking about where people come from and what their birthright is. Get people back what's rightfully theirs. A geneticist from UCL said it becomes a part of our understanding. I think that there are, like, for example, not to get off too far, there are people who should be a part of the Daughters of the Revolution who are generally not allowed to be, because the people who are seen as veterans of the Revolutionary War are said to have one particular pigment of skin or the other. And that's very bad, because those Daughters of the Revolution should be allowed to take in all the members who fought valiantly for this country, not just the ones that they feel look like somebody whose ancestors would have fought in the war. That's completely messed up. That's just one example, and I'll leave it there and keep going. I think that would be a much, much better thing. I think it would be good if people lodge it in their heads and it becomes a little part of their knowledge. What? That we are too preoccupied with skin pigmentation? Unusually preoccupied. Unsurprisingly, the findings have generated lots of interest on social media. Cheddar Man's genome reveals he was closely related to other Mesolithic individuals, so-called Western hunter-gatherers. Most have been analyzed from Spain, Luxembourg, and Hungary. So this is what the so-called hunter-gatherer group would have looked like. Dutch artist Alphonse and Adrie Kennis, a specialist in paleontological model making, took the genetic findings and combined them with his physical measurements from the scans of the skull. The result was a strikingly lifelike reconstruction of a face from our distant past. Pale skin probably arrived in Britain with a migration of people from the Middle East around 6,000 years ago. Hold on. When Elijah this sound like the lessons. Gang. So I'm laughing because for those who've ever been a part of the Nation of Islam or any adjacent to the Nation of Islam, or listen to any of the teachings of Malcolm X or the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad or Minister Louis Farrakhan, etc., or Khalid Muhammad, etc., Jabril Muhammad, any of those people, you've heard one of the tenets of the Nation of Islam is that, the Caucasian man, didn't really come into existence until about 6,000 or so years ago. So it's interesting that they would put that in this article and just try to slide that in there, that these people didn't get into Britain until around 6,000 years ago. Anyway, I'm gonna keep going, man. Oh, Ghetto, you making that up? I'm not making that up. I'll pull it up in another episode. This is just getting funnier and funnier. This population had pale skin and brown eyes, and absorbed population like the ones Cheddar Man belonged to. Gang, fair use. Fair motherfucking use. Where we going? Let's go right here.
Making endeavors in human history, and the Irish were a special target for 1,000 years.
Not yet.
On the day
the Irish were persecuted by one faction or another, to include enslavement and indentured servitude. When did the Irish...
We'll come there in a second.
These A's, C's, and T's are these rows of G's, A's, C's, and T's are the unique genetic code of Cheddar Man. After 10,000 years, he's back.
The data is good, the quality is good, a lot more than we thought, so that's brilliant news. So I'm just getting it prepared here, ready to send off to UCL for some further analyses.
We're not seeing large differentiation between the population to which he belonged and the populations in, for example, Spain or Germany. I think it would be fair to say that he's more a European than he is a Brit.
That's not what the book was saying. That's not what the book was saying. Okay, let's keep going.
The team have proved something else too. Further back in time, Cheddar Man's ancestors came from the Middle East.
They move across from the Near East, mix with standing Mesolithic populations that are moving north into Europe, and then end up in Britain, in southern Britain.
Yeah, because no one's shown that from Britain before, have they?
No.
We've got samples from Europe, but so this actually shows that they actually would have come all the way across into the UK as well.
With hypopigmentation, so with light skin, were both absent. We do not find neither of them. So that suggests the absence of a light skin phenotype.
Okay.
The absence of light skin.
Most likely a dark skin phenotype.
Dark skin.
Dark skin,
Oh, I love
especially
your dark skin.
Absent.
I don't know where it begins. I don't know where it ends. Dark skin. Oh, I love your dark skin. Keep going.
We do not
about
find
light.
neither of them. So that suggests the absence of a light skin phenotype.
Okay.
The
Most likely
absence
a
of
dark skin
light
phenotype.
skin.
dark skin,
Dark
especially
skin.
with blue eyes,
With
is
blue
surprising.
eye.
Now Johan has to work out how dark. The skin pigment news spreads quickly to other members of the team.
I assume that's going to be a big surprise.
Skin, especially with blue
Suggests the absence of a light skin phenotype.
Okay.
Most likely a dark skin phenotype.
dark skin, especially with blue eyes, is surprising. Now Johan has to work out how dark. The skin pigment news spreads quickly to other members of the team.
I assume that's going to be a big surprise to most members of the public. It was certainly quite a big surprise to me.
It may be that we have to rethink some of our notions of what it is to be British, what we expect of Britain to.
Maybe we have to rethink some of our notions about British and what we expect a British person to look like. Let's keep going. I like it. I like
Pigment
it.
news spreads quickly to other members of the team.
Kamala, no blood, blood.
I assume that's going to be a big surprise
Kamala, no
to
blood.
most members of the public. It was certainly quite a big surprise to me.
It may be that we have to rethink some of our notions of what it is to be British, what we expect of Britain to look like at this time.
It's a real breakthrough. What the team have discovered strongly suggests that paler skin in Britain and Europe is a far more recent phenomenon than anyone previously thought.
What are those?
It is a far more recent phenomenon to have pale skin in Europe than anybody previously had thought. Talk to me like you know something.
It really shows up.
Paler skin in Britain and Europe is a far more recent phenomenon than anyone previously thought.
It really shows up that these imaginary racial categories that we have are really very modern constructions.
Imaginary racial categories are modern constructions. Imaginary, the man said.
It really shows up that these imaginary racial categories that we have are really very modern constructions.
Modern
recent
constructions
that
of imaginary
really are not
racial
applicable
categories.
to the past at all.
A real breakthrough. What the team have discovered strongly suggests that paler skin in Britain and Europe is a far more recent phenomenon than anyone previously thought.
It really shows up that these imaginary racial categories that we have are really very modern constructions or very recent constructions that really are not applicable to the past at all.
Not
2 weeks
applicable
later,
to the past
and
at
the
all.
Natural History Museum is about to witness the unveiling of a
Alongside dinosaurs, plants and stuffed animals, the Natural History Museum is home to hundreds of human remains from the last 10,000 years. The most famous exhibit is the oldest and most complete human skeleton ever found in Britain, Cheddar Man. Ancient DNA expert Selina Brace and her team has spent the past 3 years unlocking the secrets of his remarkable prehistoric bones.
Cheddar Man is called Cheddar Man because he was found in Cheddar Gorge in Somerset. To have an almost complete skeleton from someone who died 10,000 years ago is just so incredibly rare, it's amazing. And we can tell so much looking at him, from his skeleton, about the way he lived, who he was.
Cheddar Man was alive over 4,000 years before the ancient Egyptians built the pyramids. But using cutting-edge techniques, Selena has been able to discover how he lived.
Cheddar Man's lifestyle would have been that of a hunter-gatherer. He would have eaten off the land, he would have eaten roots and berries, but he would have hunted wild animals.
Examining his 10,000-year-old DNA was a delicate process.
When we sampled Cheddar Man for DNA, it was a very scary day. We took the skull and we turned this upside down, and we took a very small amount of bone powder from his inner ear.
Ancient DNA testing often yields no results at all. But with Cheddar Man, the team struck gold. And what they discovered was extraordinary. From his DNA and skeleton, they were able to create an accurate image of what prehistoric Britons looked like. And it wasn't what most people expected.
This is a reconstruction of Cheddar Man's face. From the DNA, we were able to say that he has dark hair, blue eyes, and dark skin pigmentation, which today looks really unusual. But what we think and what we know from other human remains is that, in fact, most people in Britain during this time point 10,000 years ago would have had this really interesting combination of today looks really unusual, but what we think and what we know from other human remains is that, in fact, most people in Britain during this time point 10,000 years ago would have had this really interesting combination.
People expected.
This is a reconstruction of Cheddar Man's face. From the DNA, we were able to say that he has dark hair, blue eyes, and dark skin pigmentation, which today looks really unusual. But what we think and what we know from other human remains is that, in fact, most people in Britain during this time point 10,000 years ago would have had this really interesting combination of features.
Tucked away in the same cave as Cheddar Man was another collection of human skeletons that still need investigation.
Cheddar Man was found on his own in the cave, but in a different part of the cave, there are a lot more bones. And these are from individuals much, much older. And these we are only just starting to look at.
Selena is now hoping further examination will reveal what secrets these bones could be hiding. These 15,000-year-old human remains are among the oldest of their kind ever found in Britain, and they were discovered in the same cave as the skeleton of Cheddar Man. PhD student William Marsh has been studying them and has some gruesome news.
We've got 4 ribs here, all of them showing signs of human cannibalism.
Crazy. Crazy gang. What else is there to say, man? What else is there to say? You heard the woman. You heard the woman.
Tucked away in
What
the same
else
cave
is
as
there
Cheddar
to
Man
say?
was another collection. Wasn't what most people expected.
This is a reconstruction of Cheddar Man's face. From the DNA, we were able to say that he has dark hair, blue eyes, and dark skin pigmentation, which today looks really unusual. But what we think and what we know from other human remains is that, in fact, most people in Britain during this time point 10,000 years ago would have had this really interesting combination of features.
Most people would have had that combination of features.
Slaves. How long did the selling of the Irish continue?
How long?
Who was responsible?
Hello, I'm Colin Heaton, former soldier, Marine Corps scout sniper, history professor, historian, and book author. And we will answer these questions and other issues on this segment of Forgotten History.
I need this. I'm going to skip a little ahead just to get you guys.
Lismore were hit by larger forces. So selling people into slavery would have left no one to farm and conduct agriculture. Following the Battle of Kinsale in 1601, when the Irish and Spanish alliance was defeated, the Irish aristocracy fled to Europe, but the commoners remained, and they left a power vacuum filled by English nobles. Reports vary, and the numbers are in dispute, but the high number is that English forces had 30,000 captured Irish and Spanish soldiers. Other sources say half that number, around 15,000, were engaged, with 7,000 to 8,000 being captured. The Spanish allies were allowed to leave, but not the Irish. In 1603 or 1604, King James I of England, crowned on March 23, 1603, reportedly issued the order of banishment. This allowed those Irish captured to be sold, a permanent banishment. After nearly a decade, the king gave permission for the English Governor-General to collect and sell the captured Irish soldiers as slaves and send them to the New World in the Americas. In 1612, the first those Irish captured to be sold, a permanent banishment. After nearly a decade, the king gave permission for the English Governor-General to collect and sell the captured Irish soldiers as slaves and send them to the New World in the Americas. In 1612, the first recorded Irish slaves were sold, possibly to the Portuguese, and taken to the Amazon River Basin in their colony in
So before the 1619 project, in 1612, the Portuguese had Irish people and were selling them. The Portuguese, the same people that had time to go run around and grab Africans, were selling Irish people? Okay. Thousands of
Brazil. This brought them to the New World. There has been some dispute as to whether these people were indentured servants or slaves, but it is clear that they were forced out of Ireland to the New World, so it seems illogical and ridiculous to assume that they went voluntarily, hence the status of slaves. It has been chronicled that in 1612, so it seems illogical. This brought them to the New World. Irish soldiers as slaves issued the order of banishment. This 1603 or 1604, King James I of England, crowned on March 23, 1603, reportedly issued the order of banishment. This allowed those Irish captured to be sold, a permanent banishment. After nearly a decade, the king gave permission for the English Governor-General to collect and sell the captured Irish soldiers as slaves and send them to the New World in the Americas. In 1612, the first recorded Irish slaves were sold, possibly to the Portuguese, and taken to the Amazon River Basin in their colony in modern-day Brazil. This brought them to the New World. There has been some dispute as to whether these people were indentured servants or slaves, but it is clear that they were forced out of Ireland to the New World, so it seems illogical and ridiculous to assume that they went voluntarily, hence the status of slaves. It has been chronicled that in 1625, James I's son, Charles I, issued the decree, and it may be possible before his death in March 1625, but given the timeline on James's death, it would appear that his son, Charles, probably did issue the royal decree authorizing the Irish slaves. This included prisoners captured, those deemed to be common criminals, and rabble-rousers who were sold. They were to become the property of the English plantation owners in the North American colonies. As a result, tens of thousands of Irish men and women were sent to the Eastern American colonies, as well as Guyana, Antigua, and Montserrat, who were sold. Then Charles I issued the decree, and it may be possible before his death in March 1625, but given the timeline on James's death, it would appear that his son, Charles, probably did issue the royal decree authorizing the Irish slaves.
Charles's army, his special army's name, the Cavaliers. We'll have that conversation later. Let's go.
This included prisoners captured, those deemed to be common criminals and rabble-rousers who were sold.
So all the criminals, all the rabble-rousers, all the people that caused trouble, the military, all these people were sold into slavery by the thousands to the Portuguese, who then resold them. What we talking about, man?
They were to become the property of the English plantation owners in the North American colonies. As a result, tens of thousands of Irish men and women were sent to the Eastern American colonies, as well as Guyana, Antigua, and Montserrat. As well, between 1629 and 1632,
oh, they were sent to Montserrat, huh?
As other Caribbean locations over the next few decades were infiltrated, but the exact number may never be known. By 1637, approximately 69% of the population of Montserrat were Irish. Many were in
Irish
between
of
1629
Montserrat.
and 1632,
Whence came the black
as other Caribbean
Jamaican?
locations
Whence
over
came
the
the
next few
black
decades
Irish of
were infiltrated,
Montserrat?
but the exact
and
number may never be known.
Barbados?
By 1637, approximately 69% of the possible before his death in March 1625. But given the timeline in James's death, it would appear that his son, Charles, probably did issue the royal decree authorizing the Irish slaves. This included prisoners captured, those deemed to be common criminals, and rabble-rousers who were sold. They were to become the property of the English plantation owners in the North American colonies. As a result, tens of thousands of Irish men and women were sent to the Eastern American colonies, as well as Guyana, Antigua, and Montserrat. As well, between 1629 and 1632, as other Caribbean locations over the next few decades were infiltrated, but the exact number may never be known. By 1637, approximately 69% of the population of Montserrat were Irish. Many were indentured servants, yet some were slaves. The rationale was simple. Black slaves had to be purchased at a cost of around 20 to 50 pounds sterling, a huge sum of money in those days. However, Irish slaves were sold for 900 pounds of cotton per person, but also traded for tobacco and indigo in a straight barter system. It would appear that the Irish then became the largest source of slaves for English slave traders and plantation owners at that time. Tobacco and indigo slaves. The rationale was simple. Black slaves had to be purchased at a cost of around 20 to 50 pounds sterling, a huge sum of money in those days. However, Irish slaves were sold for 900 pounds of cotton per person, but also traded for tobacco and indigo in a straight barter system. It would appear that the Irish then became the largest source of slaves for English slave traders and plantation owners at that time, far surpassing the African slave trade until the early to mid-1700s. Between 1641, during the Irish Rebellion, to 1652, it has been stated that over 550,000 Irish were killed by English forces, and 300,000 more were sold as slaves, mostly military-aged men. Their children, especially women and girls, were sold and considered quite valuable in the domestic service roles. The greatest perpetrator of this was Oliver Cromwell, who defeated Charles I in 1649 during the English Civil War and had him executed. Cromwell, as Lord Protector, waged a ruthless war against the Irish, starting in 1649. By 1650, it is claimed that nearly 29,000 Irish were sold to planters in St. Kitts. During the decade of the 1650s, it is also claimed, as well as disputed, that around 100,000 Irish children, generally from 10 to 14 years of age, were taken from their parents and were also sold, and sold themselves also as slaves.
Oh, so the families were broken up and split apart? I thought that only happened to... Anyway.
Or indentured servants in the West Indies, Virginia, the Carolinas, and New England.
So they were put in the Indies, Virginia, the Carolinas, and New England, split apart from their parents, children sold. This is sounding familiar. They were taken without wanting to be taken, stolen from their homeland. This is all sounding too familiar.
It is also claimed that between 1651 and 1660, the Irish slaves far outnumbered the colonists in all areas. In 1652, Cromwell ordered that 12,000 Irish were to be sold to Barbados, and those numbers are not in dispute, only their status. On 1 May 1654, his "To Hell or to Connacht" proclamation was issued during the Act of Settlement of 1662. This was when the English began confiscating all Irish-held lands, and the native Irish were relocated west of the Shannon River. Those who resisted were sent to the West Indies as slaves or executed. His own words proclaimed, quote, "Those who fail to transplant themselves into Connaught or County Clare within 6 months shall be attainted of high treason, or to be sent to America or other parts beyond the seas. Those banished who return ought to suffer the pains of death as felons by virtue of this act without benefit of clergy." End quote. The English could kill the Irish without penalty, but selling them offered great profit. It is claimed that over 80,000 End quote. The English could kill the Irish without penalty, but selling them offered great profit without benefit of clergy. End quote. The English could kill the Irish without penalty, but selling them offered great profit. It is claimed that over 80,000 more Irish were sold, with 52,000 going to the colonies of Barbados and Virginia. But again, we cannot verify the exact numbers. Many argue that these were indentured servants, not slaves. Yet there are no records of contracts between those forcibly removed and their benefactors. One may assume
there's no records? Who does this sound like once again?
that, given the barter system of using tobacco and cotton as a trade item for workers, that these deported Irish were, in fact, slaves. In 1656, the Council of State ordered the roundup of 1,000 Irish girls and 1,000 Irish boys in their early teens, even some children, to be rounded up and sold to Jamaican planters. These numbers are in dispute, but do seem reasonable, as these would be children whose parents were already deported. Part of this order was an edict passed on October 2nd, 1665, which stated, quote, "Upon report of Committee for America concerning proposals for transporting persons from Long Island to Jamaica, to confer with the Committee for Jamaica," end quote. The persons were Irish, and no indentured servant would be released to go to Jamaica. These had to be forcibly exported.
Tawny Irish. We seen it. Tawny Irish. So all these light-skinned pictures, knock it off.
Irish, who were already present in New York. In fact, some of the English receiving these Irish slaves seemed rather concerned, hence this following report. Quote, "Commission appointing Cornelius Holland, Colonel Owen Rowe, Sir Thomas Roth, and 14 others."
I think it's a fungal infection. It's very
Runaway, 30th of June, passed from David Heldreth of Middletown in Monmouth County, East New Jersey, a servant woman named Martha Bonds, about 36 years of age, lusty and well set, long, thin visages, tawny complexion, light hair, and blue eyes. Oh, she's a small Irish? With one tooth out before and great ringworms on her bosom and arms. Had on a pair of low leather heeled shoes and 2 striped homespun petticoats, and has since altered the rest of her clothes. Whoever takes up the said servant so that she may be had again shall have 20 shillings reward and reasonable charges paid. Tawny girl ran away. So the Irish was running away. Guys, refute the information or leave it alone. But y'all not gonna leave it alone. Y'all just gonna get in your feelings, man. But this is enough for this, man. This is enough for this one. I'll come back with part 7 because we just digging. And the more we dig, the crazier y'all look. Kamala no blood. Kamala no blood. As always, gang, any questions, comments, critiques, criticisms, you know where to reach me. You know where to reach me, man. You know where to reach me. Here's ghettopointofview@gmail.com. Here's ghettopointofview@gmail.com. Here's ghettopointofview@gmail.com. And you see, we working over here, man. Give a little donation, please. Give a little love. Show a little love to Ghetto, to the campaigns, what we're doing over here. Every dollar helps. Give as little as $1 or as much as $1,000 if you feel so inclined. Give $1,000 if you feel so inclined. $ his ghetto point of view. $ his ghetto point of view. $ his ghetto point of view. You guys have been amazing. Tap in with me. IG's here. Tap in with me. Tap in with me. Show some love. Email once again. The email once again. The email once again. We out of here, man. Kamala no blood. Blood, 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 blood. Kamala no blood. No, no, no. Kamala no blood. Blood, 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 blood. Kamala no blood.
All the people with the backwards attitude, pointing fingers, and that's a bad excuse for sitting on your ass when you can play.